After 3 years of having to produce the Portal to Ascension conference online, we have been waiting for this moment. The Portal to Ascension conference is returning live and in person. Join us at the Marina Village in San Diego, California, April 21st to 23rd, 2023. As massive shifts are happening on the planet and hidden truths are being uncovered, we are piecing together the fragmented parts of our existence and timeline. At Portal to Ascension, we are dedicated to full circle awareness of the truth of who we are and remembrance of our connection to the cosmos. This is showtime. There is no holding back. Now is the time for us to harmonize the frequencies and create unity and peace on Earth. We are deprogramming from an outdated matrix system, re-educating and remembering an inherent truth that connects us all. As we come together, we activate our truest potentials, individual gifts, and collective resolve. We are ushering a whole new reality that we know is possible and is waiting for us to embrace it. Join founder Neil Gore and the entire Portal to Ascension team with hosts Alan Steinfeld, Michelle Anderson, and Joan of Angels over these 3 days, April 21st to 23rd, 2023. We will experience musical performances by Larissa Stowe and the Shakti Tribe, Vox Angeles, Share the Light, Admiral Apollo, and Torquemji. This conference features incredible luminaries such as JJ and Desiree Hurtak, Adam Apollo, Carolyn Corey, Robert Schock, Linda Moulton Howe, Robert Edward Grant, Barbara Lamb, and many more. Register now at ascensionconference.com. It is time for humanity to awaken.
We are welcoming Rebecca Hardcastle Wright, PhD. She's a leading expert in psychic intelligence and cosmic consciousness. She's committed to building an exo-consciousness civilization co-created by human and non-human intelligences, which include ETs and multidimensional beings. Uniting to build an exo-conscious civilization, we gain a deeper knowledge of who we are as humans and our relationship to ETs and multidimensionals. As we build, we learn. Rebecca is the founder and director of the international nonprofit Institute for Exo-Consciousness. The Institute's mission is to advance entrepreneurial experiencers who are inventing next-era co-created technology, science, communication, education, art, and healing. Rebecca has more than 30 years of experience as a mind-body therapist, hypnotherapist, and coach. She offers exo-consciousness coaching online for experiencers. Currently, she practices at the Mind Body Institute in Scottsdale, Arizona, where she specializes in healing trauma, the often unconscious root of disease, to generate health and longevity. She joins us today to share her message, Our Exo-Consciousness is Our Biology, how synthetic biology alters walk-ins DNA and consciousness. Please join me in welcoming Rebecca Hardcastle Wright. Welcome, Rebecca.
Yes, welcome. I just want to add that Rebecca has spearheaded the exo-consciousness movement. So we know we're star beings, but what do we do with that? And Rebecca has the plan of what we do with that awareness as we kind of evolve society to its next level of beingness. So thanks, Rebecca, for everything. Wait, we can't hear you. Can you say hello again? No. Do you hear her? Victor? No. All right. Maybe your headphones are in the way. Can you unplug? Nope, can't hear you yet.
Rebecca, try going to your audio settings. Can you hear us? Yes? No? Yeah, you can hear?
She hears us.
Go to your audio settings where the microphone is. Click that upward arrow. You might have to just choose the right microphone. That's the camera. You switch the camera.
Go to the mute where it says mute and then switch microphone.
There's a separate arrow for the audio. It's not the same one as the camera.
Um,
Can you hear this one?
There we go.
yes, there
Okay.
we go. Go for it.
Okay,
Yes.
interesting. Okay, easy fix. Hi, Alan. Good to see you. Thank
Hey,
you.
great. Thanks for being here, Rebecca. I
Yeah,
always-
thank you. And Dr. Victor, thank you for the introduction. Appreciate it. And Michelle and Joan and Neil. Hi, Neil. It's great to see all of you again. We are an exo-conscious community, and I just want to thank the Stargate experience. What a profound meditation that you offered, and the cosmic and dimensional meditation. And we in the exo-conscious community are enjoying moving into these higher dimensions, into these diverse dimensions, as well as being humans on this earth. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about what it means to be an exo-conscious human, with emphasis on the human, because we take our incarnation here very seriously and feel as though the work that we have to do here not only is about our divine self, but is also about our very human self. So I'm going to share I'm going to share my screen. And just do a quick
Okay. Press play, start.
yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's just lagging. I don't know why.
Okay.
Okay. So actually today I'm going to talk a little bit about our minds, because exo-consciousness certainly has to do with our minds and who we are mentally. And I'm going to be talking about the part of our minds that our neural rights that we have as humans. And so today, I don't know why this is doing this, but we're going to talk about exo-conscious principles. Oh, I am so sorry.
What's happening, Rebecca? Is it
I
going by
know.
itself?
Yeah, it's going by itself.
Okay, click escape.
Okay.
Are you on a PC?
Yeah.
Okay, now go to slideshow button at the top.
Okay.
On the nav bar.
Okay.
You see the button right next to animations and record.
Yeah.
File. Yep. So click slideshow.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Click from beginning. Let's see if this works.
Okay. See if that works.
Should do.
Okay. And I was going to use presenter view, but that's okay. I'll just do it. Just wing it here. So we're going to be talking about the neural rights that we have as humans, because one of our important incarnations is that we, as humans, maintain this freedom of thought, and it's still doing it. I don't know why.
Look at the bottom. You see where that video icon is? The white one?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Okay, let's see now.
No, it's not. I'm so sorry.
It's just playing by itself, huh?
It's just, yeah, playing by itself.
Let me see if I can troubleshoot this for a second.
Oh, maybe it'll stop here.
Just give me one moment. I'm gonna look it up online and see if I can figure it out. I think the best thing to do is just escape out of it and just go slide to slide.
Actually, I think it stopped.
Yeah. All right, let's go with it.
I think it stopped itself finally. So one of the most important things for us as exo-conscious humans is that we maintain our natural human consciousness. And by that, I mean that we come into these bodies that we possess, which are able to do those amazing experiences like the Stargate experience. and that our body and our neural system and our cellular and DNA system all need to be protected and cared for as humans. And simultaneous with that, we're living in a time when new frequencies and information are available for humans to advance, such as ancient information. But this ancient information is not only just being brought by mystery schools, being more open to people to participate in. For example, I participated in a lot of Steiner mystery school, Rosicrucian, but all of that information is now being impacted by human consciousness and human education. So the mystery school message is being refined as it moves through these times. Religion is certainly being refined. Science is being refined, for sure. We're looking at what science is able to accomplish and stripping away the propaganda and looking at what really happened. And we are all being subjected to solar and cosmic events. I was talking to an astrologer yesterday, and she was talking about how the solar and cosmic events and the astrological alignments that we're going into for the next couple of months have really never been seen before. It's all new, and we as humans are having to cope with it. So what do exo-conscious humans do? One of our priorities is that we refine and advance all of our psychic intelligence. And we think about psychic intelligence as not only, oh, I have this wonderful ability to maybe be precognitive, have intuition, but I also have this ability to use that to solve problems, to create inventions, to form communities, to connect with extraterrestrials, multidimensional and spiritual beings, to co-create with them. So there's a lot of healing and mediumship that goes on. So where some people use an intelligence, say a logical intelligence or mathematical intelligence to solve problems, we use psychic abilities to solve problems. One of the most important things that we do also is that we practice discernment. So as a community, we spend a lot of time looking at what's happened to us, looking at the different forces that have impacted us and formed us, and deciding whether or not we want to keep these forces and these energies around us, or if we wish to let them go, and using discernment decide that, well, maybe I use that energy for now, and now I'm ready to move on. And one of the things I loved about the Stargate experience and meditation was that both of them opened us up so beautifully to the fact that we have so many different beings that we could relate to. And as exo-conscious humans, sometimes we're like, I'm always going to be an Arcturian related, or I'm always going to be Pleiadian related, or Lyrian related. And all of a sudden, we just see this plethora of many, many star beings. And humans need discernment to decide which of those beings we're going to begin to resonate with and give our energy to, because co-creation is something that we do as exo-conscious humans, and co-creation takes energy from us, and we need to be very deliberate about the energy that we give out and to whom we give it. So the spiritual discernment, psychic discernment is always a major priority in it. And we as a community support each other in using these tools of discernment. So our mission, as was said by Dr. Victor, our mission is to really advance the contributions and expertise of the leadership of contactees. So later on, I'll talk about our coaching groups and our inventor and the inventions that they're bringing forward. But we want to stand together as a group to advance all of our contributions and move our inner exo-conscious human out into the world. We want to become the mainstream, just like if we look at, for example, a geographic area like China is certainly a force in the world today. Silicon Valley has been a huge force in the world today. What if we as exo-conscious humans worldwide became a similar force. And I truly believe that that's what's happening, that it isn't going to be a one geographic place of humans coming to this advanced consciousness, but it's going to be a planetary movement. So today I'm going to talk about some of the transhuman influences of exo-conscious humans. Just as a little background for this, I worked for with Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut Dr. Edgar Mitchell, and I worked with him, and because of that, I moved to Washington, D.C. to be the representative for a program that he had called Quantrek, and we were researching zero-point energy, extraterrestrial presence, and also consciousness. And we felt that new inventions and new energies would not be able to come forth from humans unless we took seriously these consciousness and the extraterrestrial presence. So while living there, I got exposed to a lot of history and a lot of different movements that were happening in Washington, D.C., and became aware of other forces that were happening. And I was just going to talk briefly about a couple of those forces today. So certainly geoengineering. So if you're not familiar with geoengineering is anything that has to do with weather. So weather modification, chemtrails, certainly CERN, affecting the geomagnetics of the Earth. Bill Gates talking about, I'm gonna dim the sun. Okay, that would be geoengineering. The satellite array that is around us is all geoengineering. So anything that has to do with the geographics, not only of the planet, but actually the geographics of space now. We are geoengineering space, not just land. So this is a major leap for humanity to be able to walk into and understand what's happening. The second level that we're going to talk about a little bit today is social engineering. People that have been experiencers often have been exposed to social engineering at maybe in a military project. It could be they were exposed as MK Ultra. I know in our groups we have MK Ultra people that participate with us, and we really bring them in and love them and hold them while they begin that powerful movement of discernment of what happened to them and free themselves from those energies of social engineering. Social engineering is also Twitter, Facebook, any kind of a social platform was also involved with social engineering, or the news today. The next one is genetic engineering. And genetic engineering is any kind of gene therapy. So it has to do with our biology, any kind of gene therapy that's happened to us as humans. So why am I talking about all these things? Like, what's that got to do with ascension? Well, the reason that I talk about it is because the human soul needs a body to live in. And if we are overcome by geoengineering, social engineering, genetic engineering, then that perhaps may shut down our ability to actually have our souls that move interdimensionally, where we have a soul and a spirit and a connection to God and source. So that always has to be the number one priority. And we want to be the ones that are holding that space to say, in religious terms, the temple. Our body is a temple, our mind is a temple, our emotions, our spirit and our soul dwell in this temple that we have biologically. So we're really psychic navigators. And as we move into this era of incredible technological advancement, we are psychic navigators, and we have to be psychic because things are confusing. Everyone today is becoming a scientist. We all have to learn. I mean, if we think about COVID, what did we learn during COVID? We learned an immense amount of science during COVID. And this is part of our role as exo-conscious humans, is that we can not only participate in spiritual downloads like the Stargate experience gave us today, but we can experience scientific and technological downloads. That is one of the most important roles that we as psychic navigators are going to be using today. And that is how we're going to move through the information and the confusion and the propaganda that surrounds all of the changes that are happening to us and our families. I just wanted to also add that the reason that I'm in this today is because I'm a mom. So my husband and I, we have 8 children and a blended family, and I don't know, 20 grandchildren now. So I really care about what happens to the next generation. And my contact from childhood has prepared me to do this work and to do this thinking critically, thinking creatively, thinking outside the box, to offer humans together as a community a way that we move through this time intact. Because we as a species are not going to ascend the same way if we become a hybrid or a robot or cyber being. That's a totally different path of ascension. So let's dive in just really quickly into behavior and mind research. And I'll just start at 46. Many of you have heard about Tavistock. So Tavistock really started off the social engineering of what we have today. So Tavistock was in the 1940s after the war, and they were looking at shell-shocked people who were traumatized and how they reacted to trauma. So today, we're really comfortable with trauma and talking about how it's affected us, and I'm not going to be traumatized by certain energies or people. Back in the 40s, that was all new. And they were really the precursor of moving that language into society. But unfortunately, they also got entangled with other groups, such as the Macy Foundation. The Macy Foundation took what Tavistock was exploring with trauma and melded that into cybernetics. So cybernetics is a closed loop. So if you think of a circular pattern that you can't get out of, some people call it a double bind. Maybe you've been in a relationship with a double bind person where it didn't matter what you said, it didn't matter what you did. You were stuck in this relationship and there was just no way out. That's a double bind. That's a cybernetic loop. And so unfortunately, what happened was they began to traumatize people to keep them into this cybernetic loop. And then, of course, that cybernetic loop then became things like the MK Ultra programs, military MELAB programs. So today, instead of isolated events, mind control programs, we have an entire culture of propaganda and mind control that we have to navigate. So one of the most amazing things to me was when I was researching my book, Exo-Conscious Humans, I looked at how many stories in the news were written by artificial intelligence, not by humans. And I discovered that 10 years ago, major newspapers, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, LA Times, they were using artificial intelligence to write the stories and the headlines, not humans. And so I began writing about it, the different programs they used, how they used it. And I'm convinced today that, when we pick up our cell phone and we read our news feed, most of that news feed's artificial intelligence. It's not written by humans. And so every time I open it up now, I look at it and I say, okay, I am reading artificial intelligence. I am not reading human intelligence. And that's just one example of how we can begin to navigate these times. So coupled with social MK Ultra, Tavistock, Macy Foundation, governing our social engineering and our culture and the propaganda around our culture, we simultaneously had massive movements of brain research going on. And so when I moved to Washington, D.C. with Dr. Mitchell, I lived across the street from this great big green serpentine building that had this campus all of its own. And I lived in this apartment complex called Avalon. And I used to go across the street and walk by this serpentine structure until one day I asked my daughter, who'd lived there for years, I'm like, so what am I walking around? What is this place? And she goes, oh, that's Craig Vintner's Genome Project. And here all along, I've been walking in all of this kind of the campus of the founding of genetic research, which is really 1984. The genetic engineering that we have today, and the vaccines, and the COVID, and the chemically created viruses or neural implants, all of that started in 1984 with the Genome Project. And then in George Bush in 1990, at the same time as the Genome Project, he goes, let's just have it, we're gonna, the scientists came to his administration and it's like, okay, we're gonna have a decade of the brain. We're gonna learn all about the brain. Well, unfortunately, it was really not the success that the Genome Project was. So later, when Obama came into office, then they patterned the Obama Brain Initiative, or really it's called the Brain Initiative, by the Genome Project. So they did it the same way that the Genome Project operated, and so they were able to learn about our whole mind at that point. I mean, how if I stimulate the upper right hand part of the brain, this is what's happening in the left hand, so that they've literally mapped the entire brain, which really sounds overwhelming, except that I would bump into people in DC. One of the women I met, she spent 30 years in government. We were talking outside of yoga one day, and I said to her, I asked her where she worked, and she said that she worked in artificial intelligence for a big government project, a government military project, actually. It's very well known. And I said, well, how's it going? And she said, I've been in here 30 years. I've been in artificial intelligence 30 years, and we're just stuck. We're not really moving forward. I know exciting things seem as though they're happening, but she said, the reality is that we're just stuck. And I looked at her really quietly, all, good mood after yoga. And I said to her, oh, is that because you don't understand consciousness? And she looked at me and she goes, that's exactly what the problem is. So I look at us as exo-conscious humans, and going in events like this, we're the ones, we're the vanguard, we're the pioneers, we're the ones that are digging in and trying to understand our consciousness. And that's what's going to move us forward. So then there's the social engineering of COVID, step back, 6 feet, wash your hands, wear a mask. And that led to, many of you probably heard of mass formation psychosis that Dr. Alone talked about, that these scientists and leaders in government become like gods, and whatever they say to us, we go along with their narrative, and we disregard any of our own critical thinking. So I would add that for exo-conscious humans, we ask questions, we have critical thinking, and then we take it that next step. We begin to create things to solve the problems, maybe outside of the venue of what science has to offer. So one of the biggest new places that mind control is happening is not just the propaganda or the newspapers or the cultural narrative that gets pushed out by the different political parties, because that has been like a tsunami over us for the last 20 years, this political party narrative. But what's really going on is neural engineering. That's the big the big frontier for science right now. It's going to be engineering our mind. So it's going to be with brain to computer technology. So Elon Musk just bought Twitter, and we're finding out a lot of people got the pink slip, but a lot of us are going to find out, oh, I wonder what that really means. You know, is he our savior, mass formation thinking, or are we our own savior? So he, of course, has the neural net, and that started as really quite gentle neurology, neural technology. We're just going to put this cap on your head. Maybe some of you have gone to like a brain states or a brain to computer interface where we had electrodes on your brain, or maybe had a test in the doctor's office. It wasn't that invasive. They just put the little neural things on your head, and then they read your brain. So that's less invasive. And now we have different groups talking about implants. So implants are a little bit more invasive. So they're going to implant something in our brain. Elon Musk calls it a neural implant would be a, quote, Fitbit for your skull. If you think about that. So you communicate on your Fitbit. So your Fitbit for your skull is going to be connected to all the devices that you use. So your phone, your computer, your refrigerator, your oven when it turns on, your doorbell ring, your Amazon Alexa. All of this is going to be connected. That's going to be your Fitbit, your blood pressure, how many steps you walk. Did you close that circle on your Fitbit? What's your body temperature? So it's going to be this massive biological metering and measuring to turn us into a monitored species connected to a computer. And then one of the most amazing things that I just turned up recently in my investigations was that Dean Radin, who works for IONS, which Dr. Mitchell founded, of Noetic Sciences. So Dr. Radin has spent decades researching people like us, people that meditate, people that achieve altered states of consciousness, people who pray, people who've had healing, any kind of near-death experiencers. So all of this has gone into the Institute of Noetic Sciences database, much of it through Dr. Radin's research. And what he's done recently is he's taken that research and now he's joined with a group called Cognogenics. And Cognogenics is another venture capitalist effort within Silicon Valley. And what he wants to do, what Dean Radin wants to do, is an even more invasive brain type of technology, where he goes in the back of the brain and he makes an incision and he uses what's called CRISPR technology. So CRISPR technology actually goes in like a scissors and cuts the DNA. So your DNA in your body has been cut, and then things are inserted there, and then your DNA becomes changed and modified through that. So we have to look at what all this data is going to, and whether or not we want to be genetically engineered with CRISPR technology. There's a big article today about one of the primary CRISPR technology people that was given a CRISPR technology for a disease, just recently passed away. But the big trophy for all of this neural technology is going to be, just like COVID was part of our whole narrative. For people like Dr. Radin, it's going to be mental health. So if you have mental health issues, psychosis, neurosis, trauma, whatever, depression, that instead of electroshock therapy that we went through in the 20s and 30s and 40s, now we have CRISPR technology, and we will actually change your DNA such that you no longer have mental illness. So everyone I've talked to in Silicon Valley, that's the new prize. The new prize is putting venture capital money, technology money into human mental health. And we have to ask, as exo-conscious humans, do we wish to have this invasive technology put into our brain because it multiplies and restructures and moves and changes our DNA? So just really quickly, I'm going to talk a little bit about DNA and how DNA is so programmable. I mean, I love how when we're learning, when the scientists are learning about DNA, so they're learning the fact that you can program DNA. It's very conductive. You conductive meaning it can transfer a signal. So it could go to your cell phone, it could go to your computer, it could go to another person that has the same neural net that you have. So you can telepathically move back and forth with information. While that's happening, the consciousness community and the exo-conscious community is simultaneously bringing forth technologies where with our consciousness, we change our DNA. So we could say to a person that has mental illness, you don't need to have CRISPR technology in your body. You can use your consciousness to change your mental illness. You can use your consciousness to heal yourself. So it's a whole new landscape of information that's opening up. So briefly, I just want to touch on one of the main scientists of the COVID of this COVID revolution that we've had, and his name's Charles Lieber, and he was a professor at Harvard. And I've done a lot of research on the patents that he brought forward from Harvard, but basically his entire thesis was that we will go into the genetics of a person and we will disrupt the function by adding a transistor into the DNA via an injection. So in this picture, there's just that little yellow bar right there. That's actually the nanotransistor that he was inserting and patenting the ability to do that with lipid-coated silicon nanowires. So that's, if you can imagine how small that is in the cell, and that little yellow thing is transistor. So undoubtedly, it's more than one transistor that you're going to get. Why do I say it's more than one transistor? Because DARPA has a program now called N3, and they're actually in phase 2 of N3. And that is an actual wireless brain to computer interface for the military. So what happens in a lot of technology is that you move the technology first to the military. So the military they're the vaccine, kind of guinea pigs for vaccine. They're the guinea pigs for a lot of medical inventions that aren't brought out into the public, for a lot of diet inventions, for a lot of mind control inventions. And importantly now, the military is becoming the guinea pig for wireless brain to computer interface, so that when a soldier's on the battlefield, he can wirelessly communicate back and forth to other people that he's there with, the robots that he or she are there with, and back to the command center. So all of this is an easy wireless interface. And so they're injecting these MENTs, MENTS, that these little sensors are actually put into the circular system. So if you can imagine, you would go with to a doctor, and they're called magno-electric neurotransducers, and they're localized in neural tissue. So what happens is they're injected into a soldier's circulatory system, and then these MENTs are then guided with a magnet, which is also injected and moved up into the brain. So how small are these? They are just incredibly small. Thousands of these little MENTs can fit across the width of a human hair. So if you can even imagine how many of these are going to circulate in a soldier's body. I mean, they're already completely geoengineered at that point. And once it goes into the military, then it moves step by step by step out into society. So how does technology achieve mind control of our nervous system? First of all, go back to Obama and the Obama's Brain Initiative or the Bush Brain Initiative. All of that was making possible that people in technology can read our human mind. I know a lot of us are psychic and we just naturally read people's minds. I mean, that's just an ability that we have. But now technology is also going to be reading human minds. So step one is we learn to read the mind. And step two is we tell the mind what to do. So we no longer need these barbaric MK Ultra electroconvulsive therapies or audio messages or these invasive MK Ultra programs. Now we just simply use genetic engineering and send different sounds. So it's primarily sound and visual images. So our ears and our eyes are the primary way that information is going to be sent. So we'll use this genetic engineering to create the behavior of humans that we desire to happen. So what do we do in face of this? What do we do in the face of this? One of the things we could talk about in the face of this and what we do as exo-conscious humans and as experiencers is we can begin to talk about things like neural rights. So neural rights are more than a medical issue. So by neural, I mean brain. So my brain, my identity, my emotional, cognitive, spiritual ability, everything that's lodged here in my entire skull and my nervous system out through my limbs, down into my stomach, all of that is a neural right because our nervous system encompasses our entire body. So it's more than a medical issue. It's a human rights issue because our brain is more than an organ, because it generates so much energy and creativity and mental and cognitive and emotional and spiritual abilities. So if we lose the rights of our neural right within our body, then we will lose the rights of what we produce as humans. And the question then starts to say, what if a brain transmission like DARPA is experimenting with actually directs us to separate from God or from source? And there's a lot of talk in our community of people who've undergone genetic engineering, either through injections or maybe CRISPR technology that are we still this? Do we still have the same connection to God and spirit? Or what if the brain transmission, because remember I said, we read technology reads our brain and then technology directs our brain, and it can do both very well. And what if the directing of our brain directs us to separate from God or source? What if a brain transmission directs us to separate ourselves from our own personal soul and spirit? I don't know if some of you have heard about people that had a very, very severe form of COVID, and I've heard this from more than one person in our exo-conscious community. And they said at the height of the disease, at the height of this biologically manufactured disease, they felt their soul becoming smaller and shrinking, smaller and smaller and smaller, until they were so afraid, they called out to all of their healing friends and said, please send me energies. Please, I can't disconnect. And more than one person has told me that. So what if our brain transmission tells us to separate from ourselves, from one another, and from the human community. And I think all of us can see how easily that happened in COVID. It's like, don't have family holidays, separate yourselves from one another, stand 6 feet away, don't hug each other, don't go to other cities or other towns. So what if a further brain transmission or further genetic engineering directs us to separate ourselves from one another? What happens to us then? What happens to our neural rights then? So one of the groups I just want to champion is Chile Neural Rights Foundation. So in 2021, Chile's Senate unanimously approved a bill to amend their constitution to protect brain rights or neural rights. And it's going to be signed into law, hopefully this year in their Congress. And that's for the first time they stood up and said that humans have a mental identity, that it's an inalienable right to have a mental identity. And it needs to be protected from technological advancements in neuroscience and artificial intelligence. So it protects us for our mental privacy, for our personal identity, our free will of thought, equitable access to technologies, and to be able to look at them and explore them and ask questions and say, is this the best for me and my family, for my community, for my state, for my country, for my globe? So Chile is really pioneering this, and I hope that it comes to America and all the countries involved in this seminar today as ultimate star beings. We will not be ultimate star beings if we lose our neural rights. I'm going to say that again. We will not be ultimate star beings if we lose our neural rights. And we have to stand up for our human body sovereignty in the face of what's happening right now. So we at the Institute for Exo-Consciousness, we formed an Exo-Conscious Human Bill of Rights. So we declare that exo-conscious humans have the following rights and freedoms, and we list them by virtue of the fact that we confirm there is an extraterrestrial presence and a shared human extraterrestrial field of consciousness, which is exo-consciousness. And you can find that at, it's listed at the website exo-consciousness.com under Bill of Rights. So we're the vanguard. We believe that the exo-conscious humans are confirmation of the extraterrestrial presence and shared human extraterrestrial field that we work in. One of the very important things for us is not only this exo-conscious human Bill of Rights and our sovereignty as humans, but also the fact that when we begin to co-create things with extraterrestrials, that the proof of contact lies in the moral validity of the inventions that are brought forth. If they heal people, if they generate health on planet Earth, then it's a good thing. If they cause suffering and separation and slavery, then it's not a good thing. So my book is Exo-Conscious Humans: Will Free Will Survive in an Increasingly Non-Human World? It's a blueprint that I wrote for responding to this non-human AI culture without feeling overwhelmed and helpless, helping us navigate changes of the unknown by using our intuition and our psychic abilities, contacting and communicating with benevolent and helpful beings in the field of consciousness, and most importantly, co-creating as a sovereign moral human with ETs and multidimensionals to bring forth inventions and ideas and innovations into planet Earth. So it's available on Amazon, and it really lays out a blueprint of a path of where we can move in this. So another thing that I offer is called exo-conscious coaching groups. And I have 4 exo-conscious coaching groups at this time. And there are 16 weekly coaching sessions. I also have a co-creative coaching. So once a person progresses through the 16 weeks of coaching, then they move into actually looking at what's my mission? What am I here on this planet to do? What did my contact mean in terms of how I live my life, the work I do, and then we as a community support each other weekly, and then monthly, all 4 of the groups join in a combined session. And we also have a private social network. So if you're interested in diving into what your contact means on a very, very, very deep level, because trust me, we go deep and we discuss and we support one another and we share and we sometimes open wounds and heal wounds. And I have to say that the progress that's made in these coaching groups, it's just exponentially beautiful. So you can email me at rhardcastlewright@gmail.com if you're interested. If you're interested in being in a community. We also just recently launched Exo-Conscious Humans TV as part of the Conscious Awareness Network with Sheila Seppi and a group of people, many of whom are here. And we invite you to watch the Exo-Conscious Humans TV channel, and we'll be doing the coaching progressions through the Exo-Conscious Humans TV. So that's going to be exciting too. So if you can't join a group, then you can also watch it on TV. So we'll be going into contact, psychic abilities, moral sovereignty, transformation, and co-creation. So, and you can, I'm sure many of your people have talked about, but you can download the app, the Conscious Awakening Network app, connect to the CAN network on your television, your streaming TV on Roku, Apple, or Amazon Fire. And you can search for Contact and Exo-Consciousness, or you can watch Exo-Conscious Humans TV. And it's also available online at consciousawakeningnetwork.org, and under the series tab, look for the series tab and look for Contact and Exo-Consciousness. And please join our mailing list for program updates if this is the kind of work that you're interested in. If you see yourself as an inventor and a co-creator and somebody that really wants to get your hands dirty and move into what it means to be a human and look at these issues that are coming up and offer exo-conscious solutions that have never even been dreamed about, and be part of a vanguard that's putting that into practice, we welcome you to join us. Or if you just want to know more about what your contact meant to you, we also do a lot with that. What early contact, childhood contact, adult contact. We support each other by unveiling that continually so that we have more and more understanding of it. So join our mailing list at exoconscioushumans.com and go to the Contact Us. And thank you for having me.
Rebecca, thank you so much. That was fascinating and also alarming at the same time. And I think that question of maintaining our human autonomy is so critical, especially in today's world. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Dr. Victor.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Rebecca, let me just jump in here. I want to thank you too. That was an incredible presentation, and just your research and how it goes back to 46 and how it converted and eventually evolved to be the Human Genome Project. All that stuff is just you putting a lot of dots together, piecing a lot of things together. And I just wanted to ask you this one thing. So do you feel it's inevitable that these technologies are going to come out, and what you're saying is that we need to shift the consciousness so we can use it consciously, or are you saying that we need to focus on some of these technologies not even occurring in the first place, right? Like, how could we even use a technology consciously that's connected to our brain? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that these technologies are going to come out. I don't know if people read mystery school information, Armand and Lucifer and Steiner. I mean, people have been writing since the dawn of the 20th century about the fact that this is what I mean. Steiner was saying 100 years from 1920 was when it was going to happen, and sure enough, 100 years from 1920, they're coming to the fore. There's a couple approaches, Neil. Some people are very actively, they want the technology in their bodies and they believe that they can spiritualize it. Okay. There's a whole community of people that are working to do that, to spiritualize that. There's a well-known man in Sweden called Ari Thorensen, and he does amazing work on spiritualizing 5D networks, spiritualizing genetic engineering, and that sort of thing. So there's people that are just beginning to sort of open that possibility. My issue with that is it's playing with fire. And who's to know at what point do you lose your soul? And with the information we have today, do you even know if you're losing your soul? Because there's so much mind control involved in it, you may not even know that it's diminished.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, and if it comes out and you're utilizing it, if the whole world isn't on the same frequency you're at, there's also a possibility it could still be utilized by somebody else for nefarious reasons, right?
And that's why for the exo-conscious community, we just continually hammer with discernment. What are you doing? Where are you going? Why are you doing this? What entities are, I just to show how programs unfold and you're not aware of them. I was at lunch the other day with someone who was having all of these. It sounded just like a contact experience. I mean, if you would have recorded it and played it back to you, everybody here would go, oh, that's contact experience. And he was a fentanyl addict. So if you look at how fentanyl is just so pervasive in our culture today, is this another way to, he was locked into that addiction. And he said, I can't get rid of these entities. They are here and I can't get rid of them. So it's just playing out. I mean, I guess in my research, I would say the complexity of what we are dealing with is ratcheting up the human mind and the spirit, because if we don't have a strong enough spirit, if we don't evolve spiritually to handle this, we're just going to get knocked down.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah,
and
Rebecca,
mentally.
Right. Rebecca, thank you so much for.
Oh, you're welcome. Best wishes. And
thank you for not only exposing hidden truths, but doing it with a smile and a lot of love. I gotta say that. You're like really
I just want to end by saying I think exo-consciousness, exo-conscious humans, star beings, whatever we want to call ourselves, that we are the path. We are the path forward, and I know that 100%. But I also know that us being the path forward, we're being infused with knowledge in this process, in this technology process.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Rebecca. Take care.
Best wishes.
Thank you.